Hey, what's up YouTube? Skybadger here, and we're back at the end of this series. Now, this video I am going to structure a little bit differently, so this little bit of audio here is recorded in post, but what I've actually done is I'm going to actually start with the end of the video. What I say in the first kind of 1 to 2 minutes of this video is really important, and even though I recorded this over a year ago now, pushing on a year and a half, what I say at this point in the video applies now more than ever. So we're going to start with that, and then we'll jump into the actual video about how the game ended and where everyone finished, and do a little bit of a review. So yeah, let's jump into it. Yeah, I guess that's about it. It was a very interesting fan game, this one. A lot of interesting challenges, and I'm not sure if I'll do another, to be honest. We'll see how things go, see what's happening in my personal life. As some of you guys will be aware, I'm actually, around the time this video is ending, I'm coming to the end of my time at university. So I'm about to graduate. Good for me, yay. But that also means I do have to go out and I do have to start actually working. Probably have to quit my current job, find a new job that pays a lot more, pays a lot better. So with that, there's new challenges. University gives me the ability to play this game and really sit down and really focus in on it. Now, in the workforce, I'm not sure I'll have that time. So, although I intend to upload the series in full, I guess you would have seen that by now if we get to this episode, I'm not sure what the future holds at this point. The last fan game, this fan game, although it was fun, was very stressful on me. Once again, the last two fan games have been very stressful. I personally don't enjoy them. I don't enjoy running these events. Like, don't get me wrong, winning's fun, but when I just join these games and I just get targeted by people, I have to eliminate players that can't, have joined the game to, want to ally with me. It's very stressful to do that. And I honestly don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy these fan games. I don't like targeting people who have tried to be as nice to me as possible. I don't like being targeted by people that join these games just to kill me. It's stressful on me. And a lot of focus goes into players trying to eliminate me from these games that I feel I have to be active round the clock. And that's not something I can do. I don't have the ability to pull all-nighters. I don't have the ability to put down everything and focus in on this game. So with that in mind, I hope you guys will understand if this format doesn't return again in the future. I've been very lucky. I've been able to do these fan games as long as I have, but I'm unsure that I'll do this again. I'll definitely keep playing Call of War and keep uploading videos in it. However, the fan game format is extremely stressful for me. There's a lot of stress on me to moderate the games, make sure it's fair, and I just gets too much. So in the future, you might be seeing me play a few more public games here and there, playing a few more challenges with my friends, but I'm past really the point of fan games, to be honest. I would like to play this game for fun, so I can go out there and I can enjoy what I play. And with the fan games, that's just not happening. They are overly competitive. They bring out the competitive side in me. And you guys as well, which is awesome to see. I do love a competitive game, but I'm no professional at this, and I don't intend to be. So I think going forwards, I'm going to try to put more of the fun focus back in it for me. Hey, what's up YouTube? Skybadger here, and we're back at the end of our 100 player fan game series. So it's it's technically the start. Well, I mean, it's not even the start, because the game ended literally like a week ago. 2 weeks ago maybe? I don't know. It's been a while since I've been in the game. So day 59 was the end of the game, and as you can see at the end of day 59, Rog took out first place. I was a close second, followed by East Amazonas in third, who was not part of the coalition. Then we have Lord Keck and our ally Forgley. That's our coalition pretty much, the four of us right there. We did try to get DF back in the game for the end, however, he was too busy, so the option was there for him to rejoin if he wanted, but he just didn't have the time. So, as we can see at the moment, I'll turn off morale map for those of you guys that don't like it. No point having morale map on at the moment. Although, I mean, if you look at that, I can see the board is just as easily without morale map. So, anyway, back to the point. At the end of the game, I controlled pretty much all of West Africa, this big chunk up here. Although most of this part down here was controlled by MA or DF Pilot, he had to leave the game towards the end due to commitments in real life, and that is fair enough. It nearly got like that point for me as well. I just lucky that with university it's pretty cruisy most of the time. I can get away with looking at my phone every now and then. However, had I been working full time, maybe not so easy. Hey, is that a submarine? Of course you do that. Of course you'd manage to put a submarine in there. Anyway, we control all of West Africa. We also control the bulk of Europe. The sections of Europe that we don't control belong to Finland. Now, Finland was one of those players that obviously isn't active, but taking him out was more hassle than he was worth, so we put in a lot of focus elsewhere. Finland had a massive navy, and thank God he had a massive navy, because if he had invested all these resources into troops, aircraft, his army, he would have been able to smash us. So good thing he got invested there. Elsewhere in the world, in the Middle East, we can see that the Middle East is controlled predominantly by Roj and our ally in the south, Tanganyika, or Forogli. I'm never going to be able to pronounce that right. I'll get it. Maybe one day. So they control pretty much the Middle East and the rest of Africa. Roj controls large sections of Asia, as you can see, all this territory running through here. Now there are all these spots in here that belong to other players. As you can see, East Amazonas still controls a fair bit, and there's even a few territories that belong to New Zealand in the mix as well. Same with Sumatra. Now, you'll notice one thing about all these provinces in particular is they have no value. 0 victory points and no resources. Now, there's a good reason for this. If we leave these territories behind here, there's a good chance that eventually the AI will build a capital here and we can go in and capture it. Taking these pieces of land is not really that useful to us, as they eat food and we need that food elsewhere. So by capturing these provinces, we're only going to lose food. So we'll keep them in case an Arab is the capital. Obviously at this point, no point. Game's over. Up here we can see that Finland still controlled a bit of territory over this way, and as the game went on, more and more started to rebel to him. So if we actually turn off morale map, okay, I guess the rebelling was ending because we'd finally taken control and Japan had taken over. But just in the last few days, just down to rebellions, especially once Venezuela went active and once EA and BC started to retreat, a lot of the territory up here was left with very low morale, so a lot of it rebelled to Finland. As we can see, we do have troops in the region that were slowly taking it out and capturing it. Saudi Arabia has a few units up here, well actually a few troops up here, and I put in an effort to make sure I didn't take too much of his land. As much as we were at war with him the whole game, I didn't really want to take him out. It sucks for him that he had to be right down here, right on our border. If he was anywhere else in the game, I would have been happy to leave him with his core and have him join us, because he's an active and very experienced player. It's a shame we had to take him out. So he has a few provinces that are scattered around the map. Heading across into Asia, we can see that Japan got his revenge, Lord Kek, and he managed to take back the majority of Asia and the territory he lost from the start of the game. Down here we can see that Sumatra was able to reach a peace deal with us in the last few days, so we left his core relatively untouched. Now we could have very easily gone through here, wouldn't have taken too much. As we can see, we control a few air bases in the region, and these were captured by paratroopers. Paratroopers, and they did the majority of this damage. As you can see, these cities here, once again, captured by paratroopers. So in the end of the game, I did capture a little bit of footage of this. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it, because I think I took it on my phone. I don't know. I'll find it maybe. We captured pretty much all of Papua New Guinea, Australia, and New Zealand just with paratroopers alone. As we can see, all the troops down here are anti-air regiments and paratroopers. So what happened was Rog would fly paratroopers down, capture an airbase, jump over, capture more, and just spread his paratroopers out. Whenever he captured an IC, he'd start producing anti-air guns, and then he'd slowly fan out and capture all of the territory. Once again, here in Australia, we can see that the only remaining territories are really territories that have no value to us. Once again, just in hopes that New Zealand or even any of the AIs that were here before, would rebuild their capitals in these locations, and then we can move in and capture it, because as we can see, controlling this amount of territory is very, very draining on morale. So we need to keep those capitals coming in. So that's what happened down here, paratroopers and a lot of capitals. To keep my provinces from rebelling, I had to capture a lot of capitals as well, and for me, I was taking the majority of them from Romania. So as we can see, I had this group down here that was ready to walk in and take the Romanian capital again, and I literally just managed to capture back this, which had the Finnish capital in it. So that was where I got that one from. So capitals were a big part of the end game. As we head across into America, we can see that the territory is divided up between Sasquatch, I don't know, Attacker 101, and British Columbia, Ice Phoenix, and East Amazonas, I believe, has a little bit of it. There we go, East Amazonas. Oh god, how do you even pronounce that? They control the majority of it. Obviously, I have this territory down here, but that's only what I took to kind of end the game. So Sasquatch, if that's how you pronounce it, got really lucky. As we took out Venezuela, his provinces started to rebel, and all this territory down here rebelled and joined Sasquatch. I'm butchering that. I'm just going to say this guy. So this guy controlled, prior to us taking Venezuela, only this territory north of here. So he controlled a little bit down here and up into here as well. But by the end of it, all of this had rebelled to him as well. So not a bad ending. As the game went on as well, all this territory here that belonged to North USA rebelled back to North USA. So we can see where a few provinces are still in control by Venezuela and this guy. But for the most part, most of it has rebelled back. BC got to keep, or Ice Phoenix got to keep, a good section of his territory. We did have to push him out of Asia to get the victory points, but we were able to allow him to keep all of his territory up here. East Amazonas got a, I have to admit, a bloody good deal. We didn't need to take everything, so I let him take territory from Venezuela, and that enabled him, if we actually have a look at the payouts, to rival a payout that we got. So he only really got 250 less gold than those of us that won the game. So it was not a bad deal for him. So the last thing to really talk about is our troops down here. As we can see, just like we had elsewhere in the world, the only remaining provinces were worthless to us. So that's what these provinces are here, worthless. So I left them in the hope that Venezuela would rebuild a capital, the AI would rebuild a capital, and then we can move in and we could capture it. We were also able to capture a little bit of territory in Central America and moving up into North America. However, we didn't quite get as far as we would have liked. In an ideal world, we would have charged all the way up into here and taken as much of it as possible. So that pretty much covers how the world ended up and how everything ended up divided. Now, this is generally the part of the video where I go back and reflect on what happened and talked about what I could do better in the future. And this is one of those games where, I feel like I did just fine. I encountered some new problems, mainly Torpedo, bloody good challenge, mate. Taught me a few lessons there about how to use my aircraft, and although I will not be duplicating your tactics anytime soon, I will make sure going forwards I spend a little bit more on my aircraft and air force. So, one lesson that I learned pretty early on in that game when I was fighting Torpedo is the importance of interceptors and fighter aircraft. Torpedo was able to amass a massive air force, and I had no way of shutting it down. Stacking large amounts of anti-air, for example, was not an effective solution, and hiding them in fortifications didn't seem to make a difference as well. As soon as that stack got big, had strategic bombers, naval bombers, tactical bombers, and interceptors, laying a mark or even putting a dent into those planes was pretty much impossible. The only solution to that was patrol timer resets with large amount of aircraft, and Torpedo made sure not to let those work. The solution we planned to use on that was to take out his air bases, and that came very freaking close, like very annoyingly close to working. I believe on his initial attack while we were still fighting in Spain, we came one hit point away at day change from downing his entire air force. So that strategy there of deploying spies to cripple a runway network and destroying air force is still viable. What I also learned from that engagement is the use of paratroopers to simply destroy air bases. as we saw at the end of fighting between me and Torpedo, we were able to down half his air force in my capital, Algiers, with one paratrooper alone. We sneaked it in and around behind, or he was distracted, downed it, and then we sent our battleships in to finish it off. So the paratroopers, I mean, are deadly. After my paratrooper review video, I pretty much stated that they were worthless, not worth their time. But I mean, at the end of this game, I think they are my new, well, not my new favorite unit. I still love naval units, but they definitely had their place. They will be a unit that will be producing over commandos. And that's just because they're so fast to get into action. They can hit paratroopers, they can get well behind enemy lines. And if you have enough of them, you can do a lot of damage. So although we were planning a similar maneuver against them, we never got time to do it. Torp demonstrated perfectly the vulnerability of level 2 runways. When Torp was able to successfully sneak in a paratrooper into Algiers, he captured the runway, downed it to a level 1, but it was still intact. His rest of the paratroopers flow on through into Algiers, and then they were able to disperse outwards into my core. So he demonstrated perfectly something that we planned, and he executed it very well. So paratroopers are great for raiding, especially in built-up areas. They can travel very, very fast. Another use of paratroopers, obviously taking out air bases, and like we saw down here, paratroopers are great for island hopping. We took all of this in just over a couple of days. So usually this sort of thing here would take you a week at least, especially with coming in from up here. You'd have to fight navies the whole way down, but we literally just jumped around the place and they couldn't stop us. We had air superiority. We just patrol over our air bases, and there's not really much they could do, to be honest. And although I do feel like that is a little bit overpowered, I feel like it actually kind of defeats the purpose of navies. And we nearly saw that up here as well. If I had been completely unable to down half of Torp's air force in Algiers, his paratroopers would have kept coming and there would have been very little I could have done about it. Despite having a massive navy out here, at the end of the day, he could have just captured the industrial centers and produced troops up here under the cover of his air force, and there would have been very little I could have done. My rockets would have been able to slow it down, put a dent in it, but in the end, I would have just, over time, just got really just shot up, as he could just build an airbase, get in range, capture a new province, and I'd never be able to take it back. So paratroopers, you favorite, okay, not favorite, but you preferred unit. I definitely do like the paratrooper. So that's a bit about the paratroopers. So what about my navy this game? Let's think about that. So my navy was very underdeveloped, and that came to show when we were fighting Venezuela. That's one of those things, so there's not much I could have done about it. During my fighting with Torpedo in the Middle East, which preluded that combat with Venezuela, there was no need to work on my navy. I had a navy that was far more sufficient, far more powerful than the Middle East, and it was able to give me access and control the Mediterranean. That's all I needed to do. So it didn't get much development. Now, when I came to fight Venezuela, who had built up a massive navy due to the fact he'd had to cross over into Asia, I was a little bit outgunned. So although I didn't get a chance to build up my navy, and my navy was weak compared to the one I ended up facing, I'm pretty happy with the job it delivered. Although I lost my first fleet, it was able to deal, I can't even remember, I think the battleships had like 50 kills between them just from killing units in the Mediterranean that were on the coast. My cruisers had like 20, my destroyers had killed quite a few subs. You know, that navy at the end of the day was amazing. So I can't really say much more. My army as well went under some massive developments this game, and I really feel like I really specialized, no, not specialized, but really focused on that area. During my fighting with Torpedo, I had several large armies, and these large armies were very successful in, well, actually, okay, that's a lie. They were horribly unsuccessful in fighting Torpedo because he had a massive air force and he just shredded them completely. Yeah, he did. He really did. But I did learn a few things from that about my army. First one being, no matter how much anti-air units you have, it doesn't matter if your enemy has a massive air force. They're gonna die. So going forwards, I need to make sure that even if I do have a large amount of anti-air guns, they are supported by interceptors regularly. Torpedo was very lucky with the fact that He knew my sleep schedule, so whenever I wasn't around, whenever I couldn't respond, his planes would be out there bombing mine, and my interceptors would be sitting at home on the runway. So, not much I could have done about that. So, need to make sure my units are covered by interceptors. The next thing is artillery. Artillery played a massive part. As we can see down here in West Africa, where we did most of the fighting this game, we have large stacks of artillery. And from watching Rog play, this SBAA, oh man, I'm going to be getting more of this in the future. Freaking shreds, eh? Like, I mean, you can't beat the stuff. It's honestly, okay, an Air Force could beat it. But when your enemy doesn't have an Air Force, you can't beat this stuff. You just get in range, you fire, you get out. Same with this stuff here. I was killing like 3 units every hour with this stuff, just as an open fire. Much more effective than our rockets. So going forward, it's going to make sure I specialize in that elite artillery, as well as making sure I build up this elite SBAA. If we come over to here, I wonder where it ended up. Yeah, down in here. Let's have a look at that. 500 kills just on Roger's 36 SBAA alone. This stuff absolutely murdered. I admit it did spend a whole 5 days attacking a convoy of 200 of Venezuela's troops that were in here. So I guess at the end of the day, it's really only 300 kills. But even then, between 36 units, that's nearly 10 kills apiece. So SBAA, massively, massively important. The next point of discussion I think I should probably talk about is my use of rockets. Now, I developed a lot of new rocket strategies this game, and I learned a hell of a lot about how to use rockets. So, although there's a few tricks in there I'm not going to disclose, you know, I need to keep a few tricks on my sleeve, I'm just going to say, after playing this game, after working with Rog and Tanganyika, I mean, I'm going to be using rockets in ways I never thought was possible. We learned so many new tricks. We learned how to exploit a few bugs. We definitely know how to use them a lot better. Now, just while I'm at this point, is there anything else I need to say before I end the video? Oh yeah, I guess just a massive thanks to my allies. I wanted to make it this far. Without you guys, there's a few points I was very close to giving up, but the fact that they wanted to keep playing kept me in the game. So I guess I'm just going to end this episode here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in whatever comes after this. Be a surprise to me too, I guess. Anyway, bye.